Hello and welcome to another Broken Meeple review, and today the tiny little game Walking in Provence. I'm back to Emperor S4. Emperor S4 has come out with another selection of new games lately, and you have already seen two reviews of mine go up with Jiguan and Trial of the Temples. Well, there's one called Geometric Art, which will get reviewed in the near future. But for now, I'm looking at Walking in Provence. This is kind of not really a sequel to Walking in Burano, but it's part of that same kind of series, you know. I mean, this is still their small box series where they number them, but Walking in Burano came first. This is now Walking in Provence, based on an area of the world that's very picturesque, and you're playing a card game in relation to it. However, don't go into this thinking, oh, is this Walking in Burano with extra bits? No, it is an entirely different game to Walking in Burano. It just happens to have the Walking in name attached to it. So what exactly are you doing in this? Well, Provence is an area in France, as far as I'm aware. You know, my geography is not perfect. But with this one, you are essentially laying out cards and building a little map in front of you. You have two cards available. One you will draft to your neighbour next to you, and the other one you'll play face up. There are restrictions as to how you can play your cards, that they got to have a pitch showing, a square showing. They can be next to, adjacent to, on top of, or under other cards. You can't cover certain symbols, that kind of thing. And what you're attempting to do is you've got this little drone meeple and a walker meeple on your map of cards. You move them to empty meadow spots and you're trying to take photographs. The photographs are kind of like objective cards where you're trying to get certain things in the picture. The pictures being these very interesting, you know, whoop, here we go. There we go. These kind of clear overlays. You're not going to probably see them that well on the camera, but you've essentially got these translucent grids. So you've got a 5x5 for a drone with the drone in the middle, and you've got a photographer one, which is a 5x3 grid with you standing at the end, so you kind of point it in front of you. And what you do is that you overlay these on your cards to see whether you have got everything you need in the photo. And this will be, you know, lavender fields, wheat fields, forests, churches, shops, sunflowers, different orientations of lavender fields. Because if you imagine, you know, as you can see possibly from the picture, or if you've looked this up on Board Game Geek, the lavender fields are done in like rows. So, you know, you're trying to take the best shot. Naturally, you want the rows to all be in sync, because otherwise your view is blocked. And what will happen is if you manage to get a photo that has all the components in it, you'll place your marker on one of the gold cards, and you'll keep this up for 10 rounds. Same thing, draft, move your drone and photographer, see if you can take a photo, and then a little bit of cleanup. That's it. But once you get to the end, there's some additional scoring for all sorts of things, like having your sunflower seeds facing the middle deck of cards, which is to kind of say, oh yeah, your sunflowers want the sun, therefore they need to face the sun deck. It's a nice little tweak for the thematic side of things. But also things like having two groups of lavender fields relatively equal, having the biggest group of wheat fields but having squares and rectangle like segments in them, having different shops, you know, that kind of stuff. And there's a couple of extra gold cards at the end for, say, the person who has the most forest, the most shops, the most wheat, that kind of thing. You know, very simple objectives, but at the end of the 10 rounds, most points, the winner.
Of course!
So with all of Emperor S4 games, they tend to be small little card games with quirky rules, but just nice and pleasant and fun to play. Is this another one of those lines, or is it starting to show its age? This is still, in my opinion, another fun one. Now, do be aware that, like I said, this is nothing like Walking in Burano, okay? It's a quirky little card game that's quick to play. That's about it. In fact, I dare say this is probably quicker to play than Walking in Burano. But try not to compare the two. The only way I'm going to compare the two is that I will say I think I prefer Walking in Burano to this one. Now, some of you, very veteran gamers out there might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, that mechanic sounds very similar to another game. That's because it is. Honshu and Hokkaido, which I think were done by Loteplit, I can't pronounce the names, but, you know, they effectively have done Honshu and Hokkaido, which are both good games. However, I do think Hokkaido basically smacked Honshu to the curb because they replaced that horrible bidding mechanic with drafting, and it works much better. It's the exact same game here. You know, if you've played Hokkaido, you've played this. It's the same deal with that sort of 2x3 card with different terrain squares on it, and how you overlay the cards top and bottom and try to create this map in front of you. It is straight up Honshu and Hokkaido. That's not to say, though, that this isn't a fun game. Just maybe not the most innovative one. But with this one, the difference from those games is the whole idea of having to create those photo shots. It requires a little bit of extra forward planning than the other one did. In the other one, you were mainly concerned with some of the end game scoring of, oh yeah, I need to have a lot of forest together, a lot of water together, I need to have more wheat than him, you know, that kind of thing. Here, though, you're constantly looking at about 6 or 7 gold photo cards. Not a short supply here. And you're trying to figure out, that drone wants me to get a church, 2 inns, and 2 village people, and 4 lavender fields in there. Where am I going to get that? Well, if I put this card here, I can set that up, but then I've got sunflower seeds facing the wrong way. They're negative points. I'll have to cover those up later. But if I put this card here, I can start aiming for that. Maybe I should build up. Maybe I can set up 2 photos in one go. You can take multiple photos if you can manage it. And it's very thinky for what little card game this is. I mean, the rules in this are dirt simple. For the most part, more on that in a minute. But it's straight up pretty easy for the actual round gameplay. But oh my god, the decisions of trying to figure out where the best place to put your card is. You'll put it down and you will instantly regret it the moment you put it down and realise, oh, if only that was there. And you've only got 2 cards to pick from. So you've got to decide, oh, I don't want to give my opponent that, but then I've got no use for it. I need this card. Which one's better? Do I deny him or do I not? Very quick, but still very agonising decisions, both playing the mat and the drafting. The components in this are really good. The cards are nice quality. I have sleeved mine personally, just because they're going to get shuffled on the cards and that. I probably recommend you do as well. You get some little wooden meeples. I like the little drone one. It looks like an actual photo drone that's going around. Other than that, there's not really much to say about components other than, the photo cards themselves, some discs to mark that you've got them, and of course, a score pad, and that's about it really. So, and of course, the translucent things they're adequate. So this isn't exactly going to win awards for component quality, but it looks pretty. The terrain spaces are fairly standard. They're kind of the same as what's in Honshu and Hokkaido, but it looks colourful on the board, and it's a nice, pleasant theme that it's going for. Now, I said it was easy to learn for the most part. The fiddliness of this one comes with the scoring, particularly at the end game. There's a fair amount of ways that you will score in this game, and it's not just necessarily the photo cards, but then you've got, right, hang on, so if I've got 2 lavender fields, one needs to be vertical, one needs to be horizontal, so the bigger field is 1 point per square, the lower one is 2. All right, wheat fields. So the biggest wheat field I look at, and then I look at what's a square and a rectangle with them. The biggest square and rectangle is what gets me 2 points per square, and then the rest is 1. There's a little bit of fiddliness with how the scoring will work at the end. So you kind of need to approach that in a step-by-step fashion. Once you get used to it though, it's fine and you'll get it through repetitive plays. But you may find that your first 1 or 2 plays, you're gonna have to reference the rulebook a bit for scoring. And of course, when you're teaching newer players, you're gonna have to really explain hard how the scoring works so that they don't accidentally build themselves into a corner. They're actually trying to get some points. Other than that, though, very simple. I mean, I pretty much read the rules once and taught it on the go pretty much, and it was easy enough for us to get into, especially as I will say we had played Hokkaido and Honshu before, and if you have played those games, you're going to get this in 5 minutes. If you've never played those games before, though, I'm pretty certain you'll be up and running in no time with this anyway. So it's a pretty sweet game. There's multiple ways to score points. The game doesn't take too long. It claims a time of 20 to 30 minutes. I'd say that's a little optimistic. I mean, if you play with 2 players, I suppose that's the case, but you're probably looking more at kind of 45 minutes with, 2, 3, 4 players, that kind of thing. And because the turns are, for the most part, simultaneous, the game will go at a decent pace, but it still will take that 1 AP player who's there with his cards going, I can't figure out how I want it. Hang on, give me that translucent thing. Let me just check. And you always get that, and that will slow the game down to a crawl if that one person is taking far too long and the other 3 are like, come on. You're going to run into that risk, which is why I think 20 to 30 minutes is a little optimistic, but 45 minutes should be about right. If it takes any longer than that, then you need to, check that slow player out of there. But, okay, no, I don't. The Broken Meeple does not endorse violence in board games, but it's definitely one of those ones that should be pretty quick. Sadly, there's no solo mode in this. It's 2 to 5 players, I don't think there's much reason to play with more players if you can help it. It's all simultaneous, and you have the gold cards, and obviously it's tension as to, oh, have I completed mine first and that. But really, this is kind of a sweet spot for a 2 and 3 player setting, because 2 players are drafting back and forth. With 3 players, you have the 7 wonders thing of, this is my neighbour I'm passing to, and this neighbour is giving cards back to me. With 4 or 5, you're not really gaining anything extra, apart from a little bit of tension with the photo cards, but that's really about it. It's not, I don't think 4 and 5 players is worth it for the extra time it adds to the game. But that's not to say 4 and 5 players is bad. You know, the rounds are simultaneous, but like I said, the 1 or 2 slow people, you're going to increase the odds of that happening with more players in the game. I will still happily play this with 5 players, but it's not going to be the first one that I pull off the shelf in order to do so. But definitely as a 2 or 3 player game, this is fantastic. A really fun card game. Is it better than Honshu? Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, it's better than Honshu. I'm sorry, I just don't like that bidding mechanic. Is it better than Hokkaido? Personally, I also think yes, marginally. Hokkaido is a pretty sweet little card game, and naturally this is going to get compared to that and Honshu. I think this takes what Hokkaido has and just throws that little bit of an extra element with the types of scoring and, you know, the pleasant theme. And I forget what Hokkaido's theme even was now. And also the whole thing of having to do those photos and a bit of forward planning. It adds a little bit of thinkiness to the game, but not tons more than what was in Hokkaido, but certainly enough that will make you really agonize over those decisions. So I think this one gets the leg up slightly over Hokkaido. So if you don't own any of them, maybe check this one out first. But if you own Hokkaido and Honshu, then I would say give this one a try and see what you think, because I don't think you need to own both. I think you could own this or one of those 2 other games and you'd be totally fine. I think you should own at least one of the 3 because they are pretty solid little card games. But if you haven't tried any of them, then definitely give this one a look. Particularly if, like me, you're a bit of a, I can't really say a fanboy of Emperor S4. It's more that I own a fair few of their games, but whereas I'm not saying that Emperor S4 games like blow my mind instantly the minute I play them, although there are a couple that have certainly done that, but I've yet to see them put out what I would consider to be a bad game, a complete dud. You know, some games will be like, yeah, it's okay, it's not amazing, but it's still pleasant and charming and I will still play it. I've yet to come across an Emperor S4 game where I've gone, oh yeah, I didn't really like that one. I can do that for pretty much every other publisher that's out there, but well, maybe not Mind Clash, but then Mind Clash has only made 3 games, so that doesn't really count. But it's certainly for Emperor S4, they just continuously put out nice, pleasant, sometimes zen-inducing games, sometimes thinky games. I mean, this is definitely a bit more of a thinky one with planning the map out, but it's solid. I think it's a really cool game. I still think I'd give Walking and Burano the slight edge over the 2 if you want to compare them, but like I say, they are nothing alike apart from the fact that they're small, compact games that pack a lot of punch for a small card game. But Walking in Provence, I think for me, still gets a solid 8. It's getting a seal of endorsement from me. If it's on the screen, that means I've got it ready by now, but no promises. But certainly, you know, this is something that I would say, you know, I want to play every now and again. I will slip it into the bag, I will take it to a game night, and hopefully get it to the table, because I just like these little quirky, pleasant card games. You know, not too difficult, multiple ways to score. Get it done in 45 minutes, move on to the next game. You know, you could do an Emperor S4 marathon with their small box series and you would barely use up half a day. You know, it's nice to have just quick, fun little card games. So another solid hit from Emperor S4, and that's it from me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video, and regardless of whether you're taking the perfect shot or you've fallen asleep in a lavender field somewhere, it's still only a game. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.